Oh, welcome in A to Z Sports Prime Time live on a Tuesday evening. I'm your host, Easton Freeze, Titans beat writer, reporter. Happy to be here with you all. Excited to jump into some positive topics. That's right, a little positivity on your Tuesday evening. Tonight's show is going to be a standard Easton episode of the A to Z Prime Time program. We are going to start with about 15 minutes on the topic of my choice. I want to talk through some genuine, no sarcasm, yes, really positive things about this team. Because listen, folks, we are on week 3. It is far, far too early to have given up, to be low energy, to not see the good in the fact that football is in fact here. And we spent the 8 months prior to 10 seconds ago yearning for even the sloppiest, ugliest, grossest football, of which the Titans are providing us. And we're gonna lean into that. No, John Gall in the comments says this won't be a bit. It will not be a bit. We genuinely are going to talk about the things that are important to keep a focus on. As somebody sneaks into my room and bothers me as I'm beginning a show, my wife trying to put our daughter to bed. There are a couple of things. I can think of like 5 off the top of my head. I want to hear what you guys come up with in the chat, but you can probably guess a couple of them from the overlay on tonight's episode. I do want to talk about L'Jarius Sneed. I do want to talk about Chimere Dike. I do want to talk about the first 2 opponents the Titans played and how we might look back on this team in 2, 3, 4 weeks and think a little bit differently. And so we're going to keep, I'm a positive guy. I'm an optimistic guy by nature. We're going to keep a positive outlook because whether this team stinks all year long or not, there are genuinely a couple of things that I think you can reasonably be optimistic about. Maybe not the future of this season, but the future of the franchise. And so we'll lean into those. We'll also do our insider Q&A, as has become a staple of the Tuesday evening episode of Primetime. I know things. I love to share the things that I know. And I love to answer questions. And you all ask such fantastic questions that's what we're going to do. We're going to take all of your questions. You can send them now. You can wait until the Q&A begins in about 15 minutes and send them then. Trusty producer Ross is behind the scenes scanning the chat for whenever they come in between now and the end of the show. And I will answer each and every question that you all have about week 2. We can look backwards. We can look forwards to week 3 or week 4. It's the Titans face a couple of divisional opponents coming up. And so, we can dive into whatever you want to dive into with the Titans. I'm excited to get into it. I need you to like the show for me real quick. That's the easiest way you can be a friend of the show. Help me prove to the bosses that the Tuesday night episodes of Primetime are a success. If you love the Easton flavor of Primetime, thank you. Appreciate that. Don't know why some of you enjoy listening to me just talk to myself for 30 minutes as much as I do, but I'm happy to do it. And even though I might not understand it, I really appreciate that you guys enjoy it. And so you can show me some love by liking the show on Facebook or on YouTube and then jumping into the comments, because we are going to have our 2 Rivers Forward question here in a minute and talk about some reasons for optimism. Before we dive into any of those things, got to tell you about our wonderful and amazing sponsors here on the Primetime Show, starting with 2 Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealership in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, right here in the Middle Tennessee area. They serve all of Nashville and Middle Tennessee. If you're searching for a trusted Ford dealership in this area, then 2 Rivers has you covered. As the leading Ford dealership in Mount Juliet, they pride themselves on offering an exceptional selection of new and used Ford vehicles with a particular focus on the ever-popular F-150 and F-250 Super Duty trucks. Their commitment to customer satisfaction, and quality service sets them apart from other car dealerships in the area. The South's most trusted Ford dealer. True Math Fitness is our next sponsor. Thank you to True Math Fitness for sponsoring the program, where you can get more than just your average workout. Their signature programming is a challenging boot camp style class that offers high intensity training, and their classes are led by instructors who are consistently pushing your limits and inspiring you to be your best self, not only on the inside, but also outside of the gym. First workout is free. No workouts recycled or repeated. Check them out. True Mav Fitness. Thank you to them. And our newest sponsor here on the show, Simon Says, the men's clother in Middle Tennessee that you need to check out for all of your destination shopping needs. They are not online. So you can't shop Simon Says online. You have to go in and experience it. It is an experiential shopping experience at Simon Says. They have exclusive, limited pieces, carefully chosen. And when they're gone, they're gone. Their curated selection means every item is handpicked for quality, design, and a touch of Nashville character. They give you the utmost personal attention. Their knowledgeable staff is ready to help you discover the perfect piece at a moment's notice. And it's more than just shopping. It's a store that feels like it was made for you. So make the trip. Visit Simon Says in Nashville today. Simon Says, discover what's been waiting for you. Thank you to all of them. And with that, let's jump into today's show. We've got a couple of clips from coordinators today. It was at the Titans facility. Side note, for those of you that are A to Z faithful, left the Titans facility today and made a pit stop on my way home at a location, a TBD location downtown. I did not know this place existed. And when I walked in, it blew me away. I'm not blowing smoke on that. It is genuinely, I mean, I've lived in Nashville my whole life. And so I thought I knew what generally was available in this area of town that we were in. This is new to me. And we're going to talk about it on the morning show tomorrow. So this is just a little bit of a tease, but we have some news that Austin mentioned on the morning show today. Tomorrow will be Austin and JT, I believe, and they will talk about the excitement around this development for the game day shows that we have. If you are a local fan of A to Z Sports, it's going to be an opportunity for you each and every game day to get in on the action, to join us, potentially join us live at a really, really cool place that I bet you don't know about because it's relatively new. It's relatively, it's not literally underground, but it appears to be a kind of a hidden gem in the downtown area. And I cannot wait to do some things there. So that's, I've already probably said more than I should have said, but frankly, it's going to be out in the morning. So check out the morning show tomorrow. There's your tease for that. With the coordinators today, we talked to the two that I want to play this evening. Denard Wilson talked about L'Jarius Sneed's day, and John Fossil spoke about Chimere Dike and how he's looked as a returner for the Titans so far. So let's go ahead and ask our question and then dive into a couple of the bright spots. Ross, our two Rivers Forward question this evening is, what makes you optimistic about this Titans team going forward? What are you optimistic about right now? However I phrase this to you, Ross. I said, what makes you optimistic about the Titans through 2 weeks? That's the question. So let's go ahead and send that in the chat. Want to hear your thoughts. Send those in the chat, and we'll read a couple of them that Ross identifies for us. I'll start with Sneed, who I tweeted out on game day, surprised that a number of folks, Buck Rising was the first one that I saw, and then I kind of scrolled my feed and was like, wow, some people think that L'Jarius Sneed had a bad day today. I did not think that watching the game. I have watched the defense roughly 2 times now on all 22. I don't agree with that sentiment at all. I think that L'Jarius Sneed, in his first real full game back since week 6 last year, I think, roughly around there, almost a full year. I thought he looked perfectly fine. Was he God's gift to cornerbacking? No, but it was, I think, the best way to frame it. I think Blaine Bishop is the one who framed it this way on the radio the other day, and I couldn't agree more with my friend Blaine. He said that it's about the worst you want to see from L'Jarius Sneed, and it's also a perfectly good day against a Gold Jacket because he was in man coverage, which they played a lot of man in this game. Man up on Devontae Adams, future Hall of Famer Devontae Adams, I would imagine. And that's just one of those matchups where no matter how good you are, Devontae is going to get his, and you're hoping to get yours, and you're hoping to split. A split is a win. That's what I felt roughly happened. Was the touchdown a good play? No, it was poor technique from Sneed near the end of the game when Denard, kind of openly said today he was running out of gas a little bit when he was trying to push through. Not surprising at all that this guy, again, almost a full year removed from real football activities, is not in full football conditioning quite yet. He's working his way back in. And, a game like we saw on Sunday from him is an example of a way to get into shape in a hurry, kind of the hard way. Let's go ahead and play Denard Wilson, Ross, on L'Jarius Sneed. Here's what he had to say in review of his first full game back.
Did well. Obviously, you're going against Devontae, who's a hell of a receiver. You're going to give some up, and you're going to, make some plays. I think that he competed. It was his first time he played a full game in a long time. We still, he's still getting in the best shape that he can be in. But he competed. He didn't waver. And then, you're going against a good player. So you give up a few plays, but you shake it off and come back this week and be better than you were last week.
What happened?
I roughly agree with that. I think that a lot of the initial numbers you saw, which I'm a fan of PFF. I use PFF all the time. I think PFF is an incredible resource, and worst is strong. The least useful thing they do are player grades. The fact that the player grades are kind of the poster child for PFF, I think, is a crying shame because they are so much more than that, and they are so much better than that at basically everything else that they have on there. These player grades used to be like, oh, let's wait until Monday morning to find out the player grades. I don't quite know if they have live charting or it's like AI or what the deal is, but they now have these like live initial numbers from the broadcast that like come out immediately. And so people, at 5 p.m. on Sunday are like, oh, look at his PFF grade, which isn't even his real PFF grade quite yet. I don't know what's going on. But watch the game, Like, watch the game. I'm not saying that the PFF grade is nothing, but I think that there are perfect examples. This is a perfect example of a time where the grade is not always reflective, and sometimes it's not even close to reflective of what the reality is. And if you could throw that comment back up there, Ross, I completely missed it. Vols ZXY X8 says, optimism has to be on Sneed. He has basically only been full speed back for 3 weeks, but played well overall against a very good receiving core in the Rams. Also, DK on special teams looks pretty good. I agree. Those are the two guys that I are put in our graphic today. But yeah, that's basically all there is to say on Sneed. I thought that he played well. I thought that he played perfectly fine. It is the worst I want to see from him against a gold jacket, which is still a very, very good day overall. And these are baby steps, right? I was talking before the season about how at this point with Sneed, you obviously want to be able to feel like the contract was justified. You want that top cornerback, alpha, number one reliable guy. And I'm not sure you're ever going to get that guy again. So I understand the frustration in general. But at this point, the difference between him being on the field as just an average NFL cornerback, which is a disappointment by his own standards and a disappointment by the standards his contract has set. But the difference between him just being out there and being average and not even being out there is bigger than the difference between him being out there and being average and him being out there and being an alpha. The biggest jump to me is step one, which is go from not playing to playing and being a fine starter. Then we can focus on going from being a fine starter to being the alpha you're being paid for. And I don't think that is too low. I don't think that's holding him to lower expectations. I think that's just adjusting expectations based on the reality of where we're at today in 2025 in September, what we know from him the past year. And so if he can continue to be what he was on Sunday or better each week this year, will his contract still have been a big overpay and probably a mistake? I would say so. But will he have been a valuable starter on this team for the 2025 season? Yes, absolutely. And that is in part because I think that he's a good player even when he's not at his best. It's also in part because the options behind him are genuinely worrisome. So I would much rather have 72% Sneed out there than 100% of, I won't single anybody out, but somebody that is not nearly as experienced or nearly as good as he is, in my opinion. So Sneed is a bright spot. Let's also talk about DK. I'd imagine a number of you in the comments, DK was probably your answer, or you thought it, or whatever. Jonathan here, the special teams and the rookies. Jack Longley says that the special teams seem to be fixed overnight. I agree. I was talking to some media buddies this week during the press conferences, and it's funny how this time last year, well, I was about to say that's actually too early. No, it was literally already this time last year in week 2, where the special teams coordinator portion of our week, the 15 minutes we would get with I've already blocked his name from memory. Ross, who was the special teams coordinator last year. They got
Colt Anderson.
I thought of it before you got me. Haha. Colt Anderson. Those press conferences were really tough, and they were by far the worst part of the week. And now, 1 year later, really the only portion of these first 2 weeks that has been consistently 15 straight minutes of unbridled optimism and joy and happiness is John Fossil's press conference. It's been like, man, things are really looking up around here. For those 15 minutes, and those 15 minutes alone, that's been the case. Let's go ahead and play the clip. I asked him today a pair of questions. One, we gave you kind of a hard time for the way that you handled this in the preseason, but now that we've seen how good Chimere Dike looks, how pleased are you with his performance? And number two, did the Titans even see this coming, him looking this good this early? Here's what he had to say.
He has been excellent. I'm trying to think of a way to say it. So there's still obviously a lot of things to learn from, but 2 games in, the decision making, the ball handling, a big kick return, a big punt return, got called back. I was hopeful for good decision making, first downs on punt return, good drive starts on kick return, but he's provided 2 big sparks in the return game. And I'm not surprised, but for a young guy to have that poise has been really good. And, credit the Rams, they hit some great dirty ball kickoffs, which are going to become a thing. And there's not many people at all that could have handled those kicks. Even if I had 2 or 3 or 4 returners back there, like those are tough balls. So his poise was very good, and all this stuff is really good learning for him. But we told the guys in the meeting room Monday, like, we got one.
Did you guys actually see this level of play from him in practice and in the part of the disconnect is we didn't get to see in games him do these things. Did you see this coming from him this early?
I can't say that you did in practices or even preseason scrimmages or preseason games because we didn't have the opportunities. So a little bit was projection, to be honest, for sure. Like, you could see the ball skills, you could see the tracking, you could see poise, you could tell decision making, but when the bullets are live, it's kind of hard to know exactly what a guy's going to do. So to say, oh yeah, for sure, is not, I can't say that at all. But through 2 weeks of a lot of opportunities and a lot of different things that have been kicked at him, I think he's handled it really good. And I don't see any reason why that's going to be any different than what's going to happen in the future. I think it's just going to get better and better and better. And he probably has exceeded my expectations through 2 weeks for sure.
I think he's exceeded all of our expectations through 2 weeks. And Curtis is excited about Bones and DK. Yeah, Bones Fossil, he's the man. There's a reason why. I don't know if you guys know this little itty bitty bit of lore. Back when I did my big 90-minute thing, we sit down with Brian Callahan back in January, the thing that I still get crap for some reason. I thought it went well. The day that we had scheduled to do that, because I had been talking to him about it for like 2 weeks, and it was in the middle of, we were going to do it, and then they fired Rand Carthon. We were going to do it right after the season, and then they fired Rand Carthon, and he's getting dragged into all these GM interviews, and it's just like, it got put on hold for like 2 weeks, and it was just killing me, waiting, and I'm like, people aren't going to care about the season anymore. And then finally we nailed a day down after the GM decision had been made, and it was like a Friday, and then the day of, he was like, something came up, got to do Monday, and I was like, all right, fine, like, we've already postponed it 19 times, whatever. These NFL coaches, they act like they're so busy. And then that day, he hired Bones Fossil. He canceled on me to hire Bones. That's what happened. So that's the little bit of lore that I still give him a hard time about. I'm like, hey, that was more important to you, is getting your, a big upgraded special teams coordinator over doing our interview. And he said, yes, absolutely. This, fair. I couldn't be more surprised and pleased with the way that Chimere Dike has looked so far. I don't want to jinx it, but he looks, as Fossil said, he looks like they got one. And I can't remember the last time the Titans had. I mean, like, is it Mariani? Am I being sarcastic? I think that's literally the last time you had a guy where you're like, okay, there's a real dude here, not just fine. Like, this guy might actually be a real weapon, an asset to the team. I mean, the team hasn't scored a punt return touchdown since 2012. What other things happened most recently in 2012? Like, Obama's in the middle of his first term. He's getting reelected. That's what's happening in 2012. It's craziness. And they almost had one, so maybe it means there's going to be another 13-year break between now and when they get one again, because they should have had one this past week. 2 more quick bright spots. Alec Iamaner. I would be remiss if I didn't mention him, and I'm gonna play a cut up that I just had on my computer that I threw up here. Here's every Alec Iamaner completion so far this year. He is operating on north of a 20% target share so far this year, which is really, really strong. Obviously, he's the 136th overall pick in the draft, and he's a day one, no doubt starter. He's getting wide receiver 2, almost wide. He and Ridley are pretty neck and neck in terms of target share. So he's getting like the 1B or the 2A receiver targets and reps in this offense. And he's making the most of them. Like, he's making catches at all 3 levels. He is routing guys up at all 3 levels. He's demonstrating a pretty diverse route tree. He's demonstrating his confidence that we saw on tape at Stanford that I was kind of questioning, especially during the week in Atlanta. There were times where they were giving him looks just like these were playing, and he wasn't quite coming down with them. He wasn't winning at the catch point. He wasn't using his physicality and his strength to turn 50-50 balls into 80-20 balls the way that I know that he can. And through these first 2 weeks, he is doing that now. I couldn't be more pleased with the guy that I was, biased on when the Titans drafted him in the first place, a huge draft crush of mine before they ever picked him. And so I think the Titans, talking about finding one, I think the Titans found a value starting receiver. As Patrick says, the rookie class just looks solid. The defenders we knew would take some time to come along, and one is not playing and one is playing and not really showing up a whole lot. Let's be patient on that and see if those guys start to flash towards the end of the year. But generally speaking, you're right. The rookies, Gunnar Helm also looks solid. I wish he was getting more targets than he is. And I think that we'll continue to see him get more and more involved. The last bright spot, and then we'll get to the Q&A. So PSA, if you have questions for me, any insidery questions, any things about week 2 or week 3, or in general about the Titans that you want to ask, now is the time. We will talk about all of your questions before the episode is up here in a couple of minutes. The last bright spot to me is the fact that I think that in 2 or 3 or 4 weeks from now, we will look back on the beginning of the season, and I could be wrong, but I think we'll look back and see the first 2 opponents they got as kind of a funhouse mirror, kind of a unreliable narrator of a lens to look through with this team. And my buddy Justin Mello tweeted this out today. I think this was a good way of kind of breaking it down. We see Cam Ward. He has 11 sacks so far. Oh, through 2 games last year, Will Levis only had 7 sacks. And we remember how much he was getting beat down out of the gate. How could it be so much worse? Well, when the Titans faced the Bears in week 1 of last year with Levis, they were arguably the worst pass rushing team in the league, and they still got 3 sacks. And the Jets in week 2 were not a whole lot better, and they got 4 sacks. The Broncos are arguably the best this year, and the Rams are not far behind them. I would say a top 3, top 5 at worst defensive unit up front in terms of pass rush and run defense. They're excellent. I'm not saying that the Titans are going to get a bunch of tomato cans the rest of the year. Like, they play the Texans in 2 weeks. I don't know if y'all watched the Texans last night. The Texans have a lot of problems. I mean, that team, they've got issues. Where they don't have issues with their pass rush, that will be not an issue for them. They will eat the Titans probably for lunch with the pass rush, based on what we've seen so far. But the rest of the team has problems. The Colts are no slouch, but I do think this week, I said it on the morning show today, the Titans season for me, in my heart, kind of begins this week, because I think that this is the first week we're going to get kind of a real look at what they can be. At home against the Colts, where I think the Colts don't have any glaring weaknesses, but I also don't see an element of their team where they're going to be dominant and it's going to be a real mismatch. Whereas these first 2 weeks, there have been a couple real mismatch looks, and it's been the difference in the game to me. And even last week, we can't forget the fact that Cam Ward and this objectively bad Titans team right now went toe-to-toe with, I think, I said it on the morning show, I think the Rams were the best team they're going to play all year long. I don't know who else on their schedule is better. I do not think the Kansas City Chiefs are better. The 0-2 Chiefs? Have we seen them so far? Are they bad? No. Are they better than the Rams? I don't think so. They played the Eagles and lost relatively handily. I mean, one Travis Kelce catch makes it a whole lot closer, maybe changes the game. But in the end, the Eagles had their way with them. The Rams played the Eagles this weekend. Pay attention to how the Rams look against the Eagles when you have that comparison. Chiefs Eagles, then Rams Eagles. I think the Rams might win that game. The Niners, good team. Better than the Rams? I don't think so. The one team that I could be wrong about, the other team from LA, the Chargers, who they have to play before the bye here in a couple weeks, that could be, that's the team that could make me wrong. Maybe just both the LA teams are the hardest teams they play. My point is, I don't think it gets worse than it was on Sunday. And the Titans went toe-to-toe with that team for 2.5 quarters before a turnover really blew the gates open on the game, and the better team ran away with it. It did feel like a college football matchup where there's a clear mismatch in talent, and one team is a clear favorite, and they've got the horses the other team doesn't have, and the other team's got some fight, and they're a competent, good football team, but they just don't quite belong. And they give them hell for 2.5 or 3 quarters, and then the wheels come off because eventually the talent disparity just wins out. Now, I'm not saying that the Titans are a good buttoned up team from a minor conference. It's the NFL. It is different. But it did feel like the talent disparity finally wore the game out enough to open it up. The difference in discipline, the difference in development as a full team shone through and was the difference in the end. And that's why I kind of think it was a relatively boring game, because I think you got a pretty fair reflection of both teams. The Titans have some fight, they've got some upside, and they can't quite finish right now because they don't have the horses. And the Rams are a no question playoff team that might, if Stafford and all of these key players stay healthy, be a legit Super Bowl contender, like they were last year when they were the only team in the playoffs that gave the eventual Super Bowl champions even close to a run for their money. So we'll see. We'll see this week. I am extremely excited to see how the Titans look against the Colts. I don't think that they're going to blow them out of the water. I don't even think that, I think that they are underdogs at home for good reason. So I don't even necessarily know if I think the Colts are going to lose the game, but I think you're going to see a whole lot different look from the Titans. And I think that that's going to be one of those things we look back on is, oh man, tough start with those first two teams. The Titans might be bad, but are they as bad as they looked those first 2 weeks? I'm inclined to say no. And with that, we'll get to our Q&A. So I know Ross has already started a couple. Now's the time. If you've been waiting, go ahead and shoot any and all Titans questions you have. We'll go rapid fire and stay here and answer all of them until we have answered all of them. So with that, Ross, what is our first question? Sergey says, question, TV copy doesn't show sidelines unless something of note is going on. How much communication do you see between players and staff from the press box? Are they something exchanges to get alignment? I don't really know what the end of this means, but I feel like I understand your question.
He's saying, are there fiery exchanges to get?
Are there fiery? I see. Are there fire exchanges to get alignment? Fiery is a little strong, but they are. Even though Brian Callahan is the head coach, when the defense is in phase, he is involved kind of half in, half out on the actual game with his quarterback and the quarterback coach. And they're talking up and down with Nick Holtz and the rest of the offensive staff. And I'm sure Mike McCoy's involved in all that. Yes, like if this is a question about adjustments, they're not like at each other's throats by any means. They're trusting the process and they're respecting each other, and nobody's blowing their top quite yet, but they are absolutely talking each and every time the offense comes off the field. Next question. Nate Samuels might be off topic, but I'm flying into Nashville first of all, there are no off topic questions in the Insider Q&A. All topics are on topic. Might be off topic, but I'm flying to Nashville for the game Sunday, and I have 2 questions. What are some good restaurants around downtown Nashville? Also, club level seats, good viewpoint. So Nate, are you looking to buy tickets, or do you already have tickets? Because if you're asking where in club to sit, I would say as anywhere in terms of up and down the club is fine, because it's relatively, it's not that there's not a big difference in the front and the back. I would try to get on along one of the sidelines, but depending on the price, they're all on the sidelines because they're open ends. I mean, near the middle of the sidelines. Already got them. Okay, so I'm not even quite sure what the question is. The best view. I mean, I think from the 50-yard line is the best view, to be honest with you. So if you're looking to like get a picture or something like that. The other question about restaurants, I'm just the worst when it comes to this. I have lived here my whole life, and I'm not like a fancy restaurant kind of guy. What are you looking for? You know what I mean? Like, are we talking fast casual? Are we talking like a nice sit down steakhouse? I need more information from you, Nate. So circle back. Next question. Major Keys, Easton, are you mad at us for saying fire Callahan like Austin is? I wouldn't say I'm mad. I'm not surprised, because here's how it works, guys. Like I have watched the past couple of years this happen to the Vikings fan base. I watched it happen to the Bears fan base last year. I watched it happen to the I watched it happen to the Texans fan base before Stroud really hit his stride that season. Whenever you draft a top, I've certainly seen it happen to the Colts fan base and slowly deteriorate into hell. Whenever you draft a top quarterback, the blame meter goes to 1,000,000, and fans rightfully are going to protect their perfect baby boy quarterbacks who can do no wrong and do no evil and must be protected at all costs. And so they will aggressively point the finger at the coach or the offensive line or the weapons or the defense or literally the owner, the owner's cat, anybody, anything they can possibly find to blame instead of the quarterback. They're going to blame. So I'm not surprised by that at all, especially when, and I talked about this a lot on my old show, there is a pretty natural cycle of things when it comes to the blame game in the NFL. And the fan mob generally only comes for one of three entities at a time: the head coach, the GM, and the quarterback in a cycle, right? So let's go back in time. John Robinson fired midseason. The pitchforks were on him. He's done. Then Ryan Tannehill dies before anybody really has the chance to turn on him, but things were trending in the wrong direction before it finally ended. And so he goes down. Then Vrabel. So you've gone GM, quarterback, head coach. Well, would you look at that? We're back to Rand. Then the GM goes down. Then Will Levis, back to quarterback. The quarterback goes down. We get a new quarterback. So you've gone GM, quarterback, head coach, GM, quarterback. The pitchforks are at Brian Callahan's door no matter what, because he's next in line. That's how it goes. So I'm not surprised, and I disagree with you, obviously. I think that's crazy town, but am I mad? Next question. Vol says, is it just me or has Skoronski been a dim bright spot despite the O-line struggles? Yes. I have been contacting our best and brightest scientists all week, asking if we have the technology to duplicate, to clone Peter Skoronski 5 times. Because if so, what fantastic news that would be for this team. He's been really, really good. I wish the guys around him would play as well as he does. A bright spot, says Todd. I agree. It is a bright spot. He's been a butt kicker out there for 2 weeks. And I think that he has picked up right where he left off with last year. He was down the stretch last year, was arguably the best pass protecting guard in the entire league. I think that his run offense this year has been impressive as well. No matter what phase of the game he's playing, and he's not been perfect through 2 weeks. He's not been I wouldn't say he's quite the leader for the All-Pro quite yet, but is he in that air of guys that are truly fantastic guards? Yes, he is. The rest of the guys need to play like it. Next question. Devin says, Dan Campbell had a rough first couple seasons with the Lions. What's the difference between the trajectory of Dan Campbell to somebody like Brian Callahan? Well, on paper, the difference could be nothing. That could be the trajectory if the Titans have the patience and the faith in Brian Callahan. Part of it is the quarterback cycle, right? And so the fact that Dan Campbell was brought in and they didn't go drafting some top quarterback. They made a trade to actually send away their franchise quarterback for the past however long it had been, 10 years, and get what was supposed to be a downgrade. And then just kind of another man's trash is one man's trash, another man's treasure situation with Goff. And they turned things around. But that was an organization that, and listen, Amy Adams Strunk and Sheila Ford, the owner of the Ford family, controlling owner up there, they're good friends. I pray every day that Amy Adams Strunk takes some notes from Sheila Ford because they are patient in the right ways in Detroit. They march to the beat of their own drum a little bit, and it's paid dividends for them. And I'm not saying that Brian Callahan and Dan Campbell are a whole lot alike in any element other than the fact that they're both offensive coaches in the NFL. They're pretty dissimilar in every other way. But I still believe that Brian Callahan, if given the time, will turn the ship around. So I'm not sure there is a whole lot of a difference besides the quarterback timeline changing things, because it always will. It always will if you draft a top quarterback. Next question. Curtis, is JC out this week too? TBD. We'll see. We'll ask for an update tomorrow. The first injury report will come out tomorrow. We'll talk to Callahan about it. I would, based on what I heard last week and just kind of the vibes, I would guess yes. I don't think it's a sure thing. I think that so last week, all week long, they knew, JC told you a day early. They knew he wasn't playing. This week, I would guess they're going through the week, taking it day by day now instead of being, a week-to-week designation. It's probably now a day-to-day where they're like, there's a chance. We'll see. But I don't think there's a whole lot of optimism. I would bet week 4. There's a reason why they didn't put him on IR. They thought that he would miss 2 or 3 games instead of 4 games, and they were betting on that, so they didn't make him sit out for 4 games. So I'd say, let's say a 32% chance he plays this week, and tomorrow's update will give us some more information. Next question. Jack Longley, question. Can Denard Wilson scheme up enough blitzes they get home to force Indiana Jones to be Danny Dimes to the defense? Some good wordplay in there. I love that. I do. I regret to inform you that the Indiana Jones moniker is fantastic. And if he works out there long term in any capacity, the merch is going to be crazy. It's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be fantastic stuff. I don't know. So these first 2 weeks, and I wish I had the clip ready, but we talked to Denard today about. I asked him just point blank, are you pleased with the ability you guys have shown to affect the quarterback? And he was like, no, and then explained a whole lot of stuff. And in that explanation, he said that wait, throw the question back up there, Ross. It's gone. Oh, do we remember what it was? I want to make sure am I answering the question correctly, or am I going on a tangent? Blitzes. This is about blitzes. I want to make sure this is actually about blitzes. Yeah, he said that he feels like he probably should dial up some more blitzes than he has. But the reason why he didn't a whole lot in the first 2 weeks is that in week 1, that's a pocket that likes to move. They wanted to do a lot of contain with their pass rush, hunt and contain, capture and kill instead of just kill. And in week 2 with Stafford, he kills a lot of the pass rush because he gets the ball out so fast. And you saw that a whole lot. Now, could they have blitzed Stafford more than they did? I think they should have. And it kind of sounded like Denard thinks that in hindsight he should have. This week, Indiana Jones is more of a standard operating procedure quarterback go up against. He's not immobile, but he's also more of a pocket guy. And he's not like a Stafford, like going to get the ball out super duper duper fast. So they should sack Daniel Jones a couple times. They should. He's playing behind a very good offensive line, in my estimation. So that could be a problem, especially if they don't have T'Vondre Sweat back and the edge room shows no improvement, which I don't have a lot of optimism for. Next question. Todd, is Crenshaw Dixon our best option at right tackle if Latham is out? No. He's at the practice squad now. That's where he belongs. He's a developmental guy. We'll be talking a lot about him next summer. Right now, no. The best option is one of Oli Udoh, Blake Hance, or John Ojukwu, who you saw get the start this weekend. I think the Ojukwu thing is just like the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And at this point, they know exactly what you're getting from John Ojukwu, which is bad. It's not good, but they know the flavor of bad they're getting. With Udoh, I think there's still some uncertainty. We saw him for 12 snaps in week 1. He had 1 sack allowed on his first play and a quarterback hit as well. So not exactly fantastic stuff. And then Hance is really more of an interior guy, but they have said that he's their Swiss Army knife who could play either guard or either tackle position in a pinch. I was expecting last week for Hance to be the one that got the nod. I don't know why he didn't, but for whatever reason he didn't. Maybe this week he does. That would follow the trend of last year. Remember when we went on the carousel ride, it would literally cycle through and then cycle back through tackles, and it never got solved. Well, we've done the first 2. Maybe Hance is the lucky number 3 this week, and he also gets to become a revolving door. Next question. Someone asked, where's Duncan? Jalen Duncan is, I don't know, like flipping burgers somewhere, man. I don't know. Next question. Brantley Cobb, do you think the O-line still has a chance to be what we thought they could be at the start of the season? I do. JC's got to get back. That's step 1. Like, it's crushing. And they've got to play some normal defensive lines for this team, this offensive line, to kind of get their groove back. Because they've only played less than 3 quarters with their new line intact against the best pass rush in the league. So that's kind of that funhouse mirror thing. They also need to just get their rhythm as a group. They haven't been able to do that, haven't a chance to do that because they're getting their butts kicked. And also guys aren't out there. They finished this last game with only 3 of their starters because Kevin Zeitler came out. And we'll get an update on his injury tomorrow. Hopefully he's not a guy that's going to be out again this week. But I still have faith in this group to come together and play better than they did these first 2 weeks. and be an above average unit by the end of the year. They just need to get on it in a hurry. Yeah, they need to get on it in a hurry. Next question. Ryan Fields, who would you say Jarvis Brownlee Jr. reminds you more of with his physical play style? Pac-Man Jones or Cortland Finnegan? Cortland Finnegan. I mean, both of those guys were crazy people. I have met Cortland and talked to him. I have not met Pac-Man Jones, and I would be happy to die one day having not met Pac-Man Jones, and not die by the hand of Pac-Man Jones, for example. Cortland's, he was just, I mean, I was young when Cortland played a whole lot. He was more of an undersized guy. Like, the reason why I see more of him and Brownlee is that he was a little bit more of a smaller guy, but played like he was 20 pounds and 3 inches taller than he was. And he's just somebody that wanted to take your head off. I mean, the Andre Johnson fight is all time. I'll never, ever forget that. And I was, 12 years old when that happened. That was incredible. That was one of the only things that I remember where I was watching football at 12 years old was that fight. So that's kind of the embodiment of Jarvis Brownlee Jr., right? That's kind of the way he plays. Next question. TJ, do you think there's anything to Jihad Ward and him getting more pressures than Kean Jones? Yeah, I was shocked when I saw that today. It was like league-wide top pressure rate for guys with a minimum number of pass rush snaps. Now, I think the minimum number was only like 20% of your team's snap share as a pass rusher. So he's running pure on low snaps. Like, he's not playing as much. Like, the reason why he's tied with a number of very good, better than him players. I mean, he's tied with Micah Parsons on that list. He's playing a lot less snaps than them, but when he's playing, he's impacting the quarterback. So I can't say that I've like really picked up on that on the tape. That didn't flash to me. He's looked good on the tape. He's looked fine, but has he looked like, wow, the best rusher on this team? No. Maybe I'm just missing it. Maybe I'm not giving Jihad Ward his due, in which case I'll adjust that this week. I'll certainly be watching him closer this week, knowing that information. Next question. Last question, I think. Yes, Johnny Chiefer says, what's your record prediction going forward? Ooh. Well, do we have a graphic with the schedule? No, we don't. I don't think so. Or is this it? That's a depth chart. Okay. There's one. Hey. Well, okay, we've got loss to start. I'm going to say win, loss, win. So we're going to say win in week 3. I'm going to count the wins. Win in week 3. Win in week 5. Let's get crazy and say win in week 7. Have we watched Vrabel's Patriots yet? Have we watched? I'm not saying that they'll for sure win in week 7. What I am pretty sure is going to happen in week 7, it's going to be a sloppy, chaotic, nonsense incompetence fest by two teams that aren't particularly good. That's like remember what we saw this weekend from the Dolphins and the Patriots? Probably something like that. Just chaos. So I'll say those 3. I'll say they split with the Colts, so lose there. I think the Chargers have the chance to murder them, so that's not going to be a win. They're not. I'll say they get the Texans once. Sure, why not? Divisional. Seahawks, I will say, as a loss. We'll say they disappointing loss to the Jaguars in 13. Beat the Browns. Lose to the Niners, lose to the Chiefs, and then win one of these last 2 games against the Saints or the Jags. I see 5 or 6 wins. I do. I think that this team, like, I really do think they played 2 unfortunate teams to begin, and I'm not gonna let 2 losses to begin. 2 losses, by the way, that we all came into the year saying, oh, I think they're gonna start 0-2. Well, I was saying that, and also saying, hey, by the way, I think this team could win 5 or 6 or 7 games, and it's really, really hard to only win 3 games. Really hard. So I don't think they're going to do it again. Like, you have to get lucky on top of being bad. So I'll say they win 5 or 6 or 7 games, and they're 6-10, 7-9, whatever it is. That's it for our 6-11 or 7-10. Excuse me. That's it for our show. Appreciate you guys yapping it up with me here on a Tuesday evening. Always love the Q&As. Looking forward to the rest of the week of content. Got a lot of written stuff coming at A2Zsports.com. Check that out. Search Easton, search the Titans, A2Zsports.com. A lot of written stuff. Got a lot of stuff on the YouTube channel. Tomorrow morning, Austin and JT will be with you for a very exciting morning show with a big announcement. Big announcement coming. If you're local, it's huge, huge, huge news. Going to want to check it out. Some big game day happenings coming up for the rest of the season, starting this weekend. here in the Nashville area. And I'll be on the morning show with JT on Thursday and then with Austin on Friday. And then I'll be on the game day show live from somewhere this weekend. So check all of that out. Until then, have a great rest of your evening. Same place tomorrow, different time, first thing in the morning. Be there or be square. Thanks for hanging out. Good night.
To win games, you have to win the game, not lose the game.